Welcome to the Album Nerds Podcast with your hosts, Andy, Don, and Dude.
Gather round, children. It's story time. It's the Album Nerds Podcast. I'm Dude. I got Andy and Don with me. Andy,
Dude.
You ready for the greatest story ever told?
I am waiting with bated breath.
Is this our Christ show?
Yeah, that is what sometimes people refer to the Bible as the greatest story ever told, or the Gospels anyway. I don't know.
We'll save that for Holy Week.
Yes, amen.
Hopefully this episode's a little bit shorter than the Old Testament.
Yeah, especially the Book of Numbers. Yikes. Don, how you doing?
Yeehaw!
Wow, very, very authentic.
Yep.
All right. So this is the Album Nerds Podcast. We love albums, the album format, the stories that can be woven throughout a track list on an album in particular. And this week we're focusing on country storytellers. All right, we've got a great show for you. We'll be going over our individual album selections one by one. We're going to have a special guest reviewer this week, guitarist David Steele, who's played with some great country and folk artists. We'll be answering a question loosely related to today's topic, and then, of course, we'll spin that wheel of musical discovery to find out what kind of albums we're going to talk about on the next show. But this week, country music storytellers.
That's what I'm talking about!
Country is a diverse category of music originating in the southern and southwestern United States, rooted in American folk and Appalachian music, but also drawing influences from seemingly all forms of music from Europe, Africa, and North America. Country songs often tell tales of working-class Americans. And today, each of us will present an album of country music storytelling.
So country music does lend itself to storytelling, particularly song by song. The challenge here, of course, was finding albums that really drive that whole thing home, where it's just loaded with stories. How did you guys do finding the perfect album?
I did pretty great, if I don't say so myself.
Wow.
No, I really enjoyed this topic. There were a bunch of things that I was digging on. I mentioned a couple. Dwight Yoakam, who was somebody I never thought I would really take seriously, but he put out a great record in the late 80s called Buenas Noches from a Lonely Room.
Is your problem his name? Is it the name that's hard to take seriously?
I have like a stigma of him as being like super cheesy, I guess, from growing up. I don't know where that came from, but...
Did you see Sling Blade?
No, as a child, yeah.
He's the villain and he's the bad guy.
Really?
Yeah.
A couple others I'll mention as well. We talked about that Hank Williams cover from the last week, but I listened to a record from Hank Williams' grandson, Hank Williams III, called Straight to Hell. Really interesting. Rough around the edges is not even saying enough about that record.
Yeah, vocally he sounds a little bit like his grandpa, unlike his dad, Hank Williams Jr., who had his own complete, different sort of style vocally.
Yeah, this guy's kind of like country metal almost, or he comes at it from that sort of like perspective. Pretty interesting. And I'll mention one last kind of like independent country artist by the name of Slack Eye Slim. He put out a great concept record in 2011 called El Santo Grial La Pistora. Oh gosh. Spanish titles.
Why do you do this to yourself?
I like the Spanish music. I gotta learn Spanish. So.
Yes, you do. El Santo Grial La Pistola Piadosa.
Wow.
Thank you. It's an album about a man and his gun sent to him by God. It's a really interesting record.
Nice.
Wow. Also fits into this kind of outlaw theme that we're going to be exploring a bit today.
Sounds like a good movie, too. Don, how about you?
Well, I made my pick pretty fast, but I did want to mention a bunch of the records we've done in the past. Of course, Johnny Cash, Bitter Tears, also Loretta Lynn, Fist City. We did both of those.
I love that title.
Yeah. That was episode 164. We've talked about The Red-Headed Stranger by Willie Nelson back in episode 154. Yep. Waylon Jennings, Honky Tonk Heroes in episode 186. And then a couple more recent picks. Ashley McBride presents Lindyville. We did an episode 204. And then Dude's album of the year, Charles Wesley Godwin, Family Ties, episode 226.
Yeah, I had a few that immediately entered my mind. Michael Martin Murphey, Blue Sky Night Thunder. It has a song called Wildfire that when I was a kid used to make me cry every time I heard it on the radio. This horse is out in a blizzard, and this girl is out looking for him, calling wildfire, and the horse dies, and it's a cold Nebraska night and stuff. So living in the Midwest, I really connected it with reality, and it made me cry. And
you were a sensitive kid, weren't you?
yeah, that's why I'm such a jerk now.
What happened? Yeah.
I don't know. Kenny Rogers came to mind immediately, The Gambler. I love that story. And then there was even a made-for-TV movie based on it. But the rest of the album, like, gets kind of disco-y and just is, like, there's some good songs on it, but it's not very storytelling, and it's
a little cheesy.
Yeah, little corny. And then the closest was Ian No, River Fools and Mountain Saints. It's a more modern album from a couple of years ago about different characters in Kentucky and their lives. And I wanted to get something that was more of a cohesive tale. So that's what made me make the pick I made. It's quite a sentence. All right, let's get to it. Let's see what we chose.
You choose me?
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. You dig.
I think I'd be the dig guy, too.
Yeah, all of us would be on our knees digging that hole. All right, for my country storytellers selection, we're talking about Marty Robbins and his 1959 record entitled Gunfighter, Ballads, and Trail Songs. This is the 5th studio album for the singer-songwriter and NASCAR driver from Glendale, Arizona. First time with a NASCAR driver on the show, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Pretty exciting.
That's the Doppler effect. Science.
Thanks for that little tidbit. Yeah.
You just got blinded.
We are going to play kind of the big single from this record and Robbins' most successful song. This is El Paso.
Dashing and daring, a drink he was sharing with wicked Felina, the girl that I love. So in anger, I challenged his rightful.
Yeah, so like most of the songs on this record, it tells the story of like the untamed West and a cowboy and his love. There's another guy who tries to claim his love, and then of course it comes to a gunfight. And
what?
Yeah, that's how they settled things back then.
That's a pretty original story.
Well, from my understanding, this was one of the record that really kind of built that mythos that, we've come to appreciate in modern day Western and cowboy tales.
Well, and I've heard that song a gazillion times over the years. I never knew who did it, but when you see the record, the album cover, it completely, it's like, yes, of course that's the guy.
Fits. Yeah, Marty is wearing a full cowboy getup on the cover, and he looks pretty stunning, I must say.
Looks like he's about to draw.
Yeah, he's ready.
He's about to draw that smoke wagon.
All right, my 3 words to describe this album are Tarantino cowboy drama. I was really surprised at how just like brutal and savage some of these songs are. Like we kind of said, like everything ends in a gunfight or somebody's going to die in every one of these songs pretty much. But everything is kind of, to a degree, sort of romanticized. And, all these heroes are presented like this larger than life personas. And everything is told from sort of the gunslinger's perspective, generally. So you're kind of relating to these people, even though they're maybe not the most ethically sound decisions these people are making.
Tarantino makes me think of this as the brutality of what was happening in the American West and in the plains during the late 1800s was Hollywoodized and turned into something glorious, right? And I think that's part of the cowboy tale that we just kind of assume, but these guys were not necessarily heroes. They were people that were supposed to be put in jail, right? But
yeah, exactly. They were outlaws for a reason. But music has that great quality to be able to sort of, put your spin on things or give sort of a perspective that resonates with lots of people. I think this album does a great job at presenting that side and really, if I was a young boy growing up in the late 50s or early 60s, like this would be like so hard to not get into this kind of storytelling. It's so good. Let's play another cut from the record. This one I think is one of the stories that really struck me and sold me on this record initially. This is called They're Hanging Me Tonight.
They're hanging me tonight. That night he came and took my flock.
So that's one of the few cuts on the album that wasn't written by Marty Robbins. That one was from James Lowe and Art Laupert. But yeah, so guy takes a girl, so he kills them both and ends up, waiting to be hanged.
Pretty standard fare back then, but
sure.
Just a Tuesday night.
I didn't recognize this until I read somebody else's thoughts about the song. But as the song progresses, there's more stress and anxiety in his voice, which I thought was, a really nice touch. The three words I chose to describe the album are warm, inviting narration. These are, pretty rough stories of the Old West, but something about his voice just, is smooth and,
Well, it's croonery, right? I mean, you could put a poncho and a 6-shooter on Sinatra or Andy Williams or whatever, and some of this is very not what we would consider country now, but probably pop country of that era, which was much more orchestral and croonerish.
Yeah. Everything has a nice reverb on it too. It kind of sounds like you're in the canyons or something and it's echoing around.
Yeah, definitely a different feel from the Johnny Cash kind of cowboy songs.
Right. Yeah, Cash sounds meaner. This guy's I shot him right in the face. He bled all over town. It's that's so romantic.
I think it's true of a lot of country music. They deal with these really dark and heavy themes and sadness, but I feel like it's always with a shot of honey or something, or a spoonful of honey. It's like a lighter treatment to something that's really dark. When Nick Cave talks about Death Row, it's a totally different different feel. Great out. It's exactly, I think what you want this record to be. It's well executed. Yeah, great cowboy record.
Well, and the sound, the style also, you can picture Leave It to Beavery, 1950s, post-World War II, kids running around with their little holsters and cowboy hats. And
Yeah, I.O. Silver kind of thing.
Yeah, it sounds like America of that, when the boomers' childhoods, really.
Yeah, totally. All right, one of the other things that really stuck me on the record was the, thing we don't hear very often nowadays is male backing vocals. But this record has a lot of it, actually, and I think it works really well to kind of create some interesting sounds. One of the tracks I think they do it best on is the opening cut here. This is Big Iron.
He's an outlaw, loose and running, came the whisper from each lip, and he's here to do some business with a big iron on his hip. Big iron on his hip. In this town there lived an outlaw.
So you hear a little bit of that backing vocal stuff. It does work well. It just sort of, I think it gives that impression of the around the campfire type of vibe. If the guy takes out a guitar after he's done some shooting for the day, and then his buddies sing along, like that scene in Three Amigos when they're singing Blue Shadows. So yeah, Big Iron takes place in the town of Agua Fria. An Arizona ranger engages in a duel with Texas Red, but it's mostly, the song is about the big iron on his hip, the gun, and then the ranger catches Red off guard and prevents him from, the lyrics are clearing leather, pulling it from his holster. Those little details are what makes it so cowboyish and those kind of what you'd stereotypically expect from country music storytelling,
Feels sort of phallic, having a big iron in your pants.
Yeah, sure.
Whipping it out.
Good God. All right. So the three words I used to describe this album were peak, cowboy, cool. We kind of got to this already. This is that period in American entertainment when Westerns were just, all over TV, movies, The Lone Ranger and all that stuff. It just was very pervasive and that ugliness of the American West got smoothed over and made into something else. And Marty couldn't have done a better job of being the flag bearer for that. It's really great music.
Yeah, the album was inducted into the National Recording Registry in 2017. They did record a follow-up record to this a few years later. It wasn't quite as successful. But yeah, I think at the time and even today, I was surprised at how well these songs held up, and still pretty compelling storytelling. So I'm gonna nominate this for the Album Nerds Hall of Fame, man.
Wow.
think it's a really solid record, and I think it definitely represents this this era of American history and this part of country music really well. What do you guys think?
Well, before I vote, we had asked David Steele, country music guitarist who's played with the likes of Gary Allan, Steve Earle, and John Prine. Cool. We asked him his favorite country storyteller album, and coincidentally, he said this.
So yeah, this was kind of easy for me. Favorite country storyteller record would be Gunfighter, Ballads, and Trail Songs by Marty Robbins. Just a great concept album, like the greatest Hollywood Western, like runs across your mind's eye for every song on the record. It's just unbelievable. The detail in the lyrics and the beautiful use of the kind of terminology and phraseology that only comes with that cowboy culture. Marty Robbins, I think, wrote most of the songs on the record, but somehow he and the writers knew that language, and it's the icing for me, the little fun, he'll turn on a nickel and give you some change. Come on. It's just great. Turn on a nickel and give you some change. So, but yeah, that record just kills me. It's just so specific, and you're just transported right into those scenes of every song. It's just amazing. I love it. It's my favorite. As an aside, when I lived in Nashville, I met Marty Robbins' son at a friend's house, and that record came up, of course, and he didn't have much to say about it, but what he did say, and he said it real casually, he goes, that record was recorded in one day. I don't know if that's true. If it's true, it would be an incredible achievement. My God, if they did all of that in a day. But anyway, there you go. Gunfighter, Ballads, and Trail Songs. Thanks for having me do this. I'm flattered to be asked, and keep up the good work. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
David wasn't aware that I'm the one that sings on the show.
Yes, I know. You're going to have to hash that out.
A little sing off there.
Better clear some leather.
Yeah, so I'm with David. I think this is a great record, and probably the epitome of that cowboy country storytelling. So I vote yes.
Every gun makes its own tune.
Every gun does make its own tune. And Marty took that whole vibe, and I think took that whole singing cowboy deal that was happening in Gene Autry films and stuff, and perfected it. Like, this is exactly what you picture when you say country storytellers. So absolutely Hall of Fame.
All right. Well, congratulations to Marty Robbins. Shout out to David for his insights on the record.
Yeah, thank you so much for contributing.
Once again, the album is Marty Robbins, Gunfighter, Ballads, and Trail Songs.
I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
If you're enjoying the show, and we hope you are, do us a solid and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Maybe we made you laugh, or you discovered an album you enjoy. Leaving a review keeps the show going and helps other music fans find us.
People come up to me all the time and say, I don't like country music, but I really like you. I would call them the NPR demographic, the thinking man more than the drinking man.
Can't we think and drink?
Yeah, I think that should be Brandy Clark's next song.
Can't we think and drink? Yeah, thinking and drinking. I like it.
Okay, so my choice for a country music storyteller is Brandy Clark and her debut record from 2013, 12 Stories. Brandy Lynn Clark, who was born in Morton, Washington in 1975. She was a Music Row songwriter for several years in Nashville. Wrote some hits for the likes of Miranda Lambert, the band Perry, Sheryl Crow. But this was finally her opportunity to be in the front.
Well, that's the way you make your bones in Nashville, right? You go and you write songs. You hope to get your name out there, so someone will let you make your own record.
Yep. Okay. Well, here's a song called Stripes.
'Cause I hate stripes, and orange ain't my color. And if I squeeze that trigger tonight, I'll be wearing one.
Yeah, so kind of a clever song. So basically, she's saying she would kill this person, but she doesn't look good in orange, and she hates stripes. There's a cool line in there. No crime of passion is worth a crime of fashion.
So the reason not to go to jail or break laws is because you'll have to dress like a fool.
It's so funny.
Okay.
Either way, keep you out of prison's a good moral to take.
Yes.
Yeah, so the 3 words I chose to describe the album are soft-spoken observer. So it seems like, Brandy Clark is, just observing sort of ordinary people and, describing their lives. And it's, some of the subject matter is very serious. Sounds like there's some, domestic violence going on there and serious drinking and stuff like that. Infidelity. But, she has just some clever lyrics in there. Sometimes things are presented in kind of a silly or outrageous way.
I feel like she could have written a song about people doing their laundry and a slice of life thing, and it still would have been good.
Should pull the drama out of the folding or the rinse cycle or something.
Yeah, well, it's not even just all drama. It's just the observational skills and the way of wording things to make it relatable but not predictable is what I thought she did really well.
Well, let's hear another one. This is Illegitimate Children.
From the barroom to the bedroom, the path's weathered and worn. This is how illegitimate children are born.
When I was listening to this album, I just had it on headphones. I was not looking at the song titles. It starts off with people getting, having shots and getting drunk at a bar. And when the line kicks in, this is how illegitimate children are born. I was like, what? So that's what I meant by it's not predictable. Like I thought I knew where it was going and it did not go there. Basically narrating the story of drunk sex resulting in unintended pregnancies and, think before you drink. I guess,
We've all been there. Just kidding.
But it just was like such an in-your-face way to bring together what the consequences can be for actions taken when maybe you're not of totally sound mind. And it just really, it got me. So the 3 words I used to describe this album are like it is, which is pretty much she just tells it like it is and sometimes surprises you with her candor. And I really, I enjoyed that about this album. And it's one thing I want to mention, Illegitimate Children, it should have been a clue. At the very beginning, you hear like a lullaby toy playing, like children's music. I should have picked up on that, but there's your warning. But yeah, the unglamorous aspects of normal life somehow made interesting. Kind of like Ashley McBride's Lindyville without as much humor thrown in and there aren't as many stereotypes thrown around, but it's equally enjoyable in its own way.
Yeah, and Brandy Clark actually co-wrote most of those songs on that Lindyville record with Ashley McBride.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's. Here's another one. Here's What'll Keep Me Out of Heaven.
Champagne and candlelight. What'll keep me out of heaven? Take me there tonight.
Yeah, just some really compelling storytelling on that track. I thought every one of these songs is just really well constructed and performed, and I found myself kind of getting wrapped up with these stories almost, the first listen. 3 words I used to describe this album are Floor 13, Couples Counseling. So the impression I had from this record, and tell me if I'm wrong, Don, is like these are all kind of stories from like one building or maybe like an apartment or like an area or something like that, and kind of all lumped together.
That could be. Yeah, it makes sense.
I think what makes this record so interesting, or maybe why it works so well, is that Brandy is kind of playing the part of like this sort of, uninterested narrator who's kind of telling these stories, but isn't really a part of them. I feel like she's kind of like stepped outside of that a little bit. And it's why she is like very blunt and she doesn't, pull any punches on these stories. They really cuts to the heart of them pretty quickly. I think that works really well. Yeah, and she's got a really great voice, and I think musically it's really solid. And there's some moments on here that really work well. Got some twang, which I think is appreciated in these country songs. It feels like drunken country nights. A lot of these songs, so I was pretty positive on this overall.
Nice, and also mentioned there are some backing vocals in there. You can hear some Vince Gill and Casey Musgraves
nice.
On this album.
Oh wow, some big names.
I also like how it's not about the rodeo or something.
Yeah,
it's everyday life and
yeah, it feels like very modern in that way.
Yes. Well, yeah. And, the stereotype when you hear country storytellers, we think more about Marty Robbins and Willie Nelson and things of that nature. So this was a nice palate cleanser. for our three choices here.
Okay, so that was Brandy Clark's 12 Stories from 2013.
Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
And now, Deep Questions by Don. All right, so we're, of course, exploring the world of country storytellers. What about outside of country and folk music? What's your favorite non-country song that tells a story?
Well, the first thing that came to mind, we did our covers album last week. I was listening to Tori Amos's 2001 album, Strange Little Girls.
Yep. Which we also talked about when we talked about Slayer, surprisingly.
It's come up a few times. That's right. Well, that record also features a track cover by an Eminem song called 1997 Bonnie and Clyde, which is a really interesting story. I think Tori does a great job of selling it on her record, of this man and daughter. They're going out to the ocean to basically bury the mother that they killed. It's the conversation between the father and the young daughter, and it's really creepy, but it's also really compelling to hear it unfold every time. It always strikes me.
Yeah, mine was the first thing that came to mind was Very Dude, Pearl Jam Jeremy from their debut album 10. I think just for me, that was the first time as a semi-adult that I was impacted by a story in a song where at first I didn't really know what it was about. Then I saw the video and I paid closer attention to the lyrics, and it again, an impactful story about in this case a kid that's picked on and it drives him to suicide. But just the social aspects, the shining lights on dark places that bands like Pearl Jam were doing at the time, for me, was new, right? I knew it had happened before, but it was new. It was part of my generation and our stories, and that's always, although overplayed, still very impactful.
Well, I've got another one sort of from Dude World, Metallica 1.
There you go.
Right? So that's based on the novel Johnny Got His Gun. Is it Dalton Trumbo, I think was the author, but it's about a poor guy who loses all his limbs, can't communicate, hear or see, I don't think, from World War I. And I just think that song is just so powerful and so depressing, right? Definitely not like a country music treatment.
No. But then you wait for then you get the darkness imprisoning me, which somehow, even though you know how freaking dark this prison that this guy is in, it still somehow brings up the mood a little bit.
It's good. All these non-country ones just feel so much darker.
Darkness imprisoning me, all I see. Yodelay-hee-hoo and yodelay-hee-hee.
I could see that bluegrass gun. That's supposed to be a fiddle. Okay, well, what's your favorite non-country song that tells a story? Let us know. Hit us up on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. Also on Discord, albumnerds.com/Discord.
I like your style, dude.
Okay, so I went with Sturgill Simpson's The Ballad of Dude and Juanita, released in August of 2021. It's a bluegrass folk sort of record. Sturgill Simpson was born June 8th, 1978. He's an American country music singer-songwriter. 7 solo albums out now, self-released his first 2, and then, has gained some notoriety for his albums like Metamodern Sounds and Country Music and A Sailor's Guide to Earth. But in 2020, he started messing around with bluegrass and released a couple of albums that were covers of his own songs in bluegrass style, and that led down this path to the Ballad of Dude and Juanita. It's a concept album, Western narrative, set in Appalachia, and it's a love story, kind of Marty Robbins style, with some gunslinging. So why don't we start off with a little bit of Old Dude, Part 1.
He was harder than the nails hammered Jesus' hands. He was the one they called Dude, son of a mountain miner and a Shawnee maiden.
All right, so the song basically describes Dude and his background, who he is. And that's kind of one of the attributes of this album. There's the story, but then there's also these tracks that describe the characters. The 3 words I use to describe the album are the dude abides. Dude does what he does, right? He lets out the beast. Juanita gets kidnapped by Seamus McClure, and Juanita's made dude a better man, but he has to let old dude out to go seek revenge and save his woman, and that's what he does.
Release the dude.
Yeah. We got on one of the tracks, Willie Nelson plays guitar on Juanita. Love the Civil War setting. The prologue starts off with a Civil War march type thing, telling the story of Dude and Juanita. And then, like I mentioned, the songs about characters, which is great. I would have liked a song about Seamus McClure, though, right? I mean, don't we want to know a little bit more about the bad guy?
Yeah, he feels like he's an important part of the story, but yeah, he's not focused on too much until right at the very end.
Maybe you should do a follow-up album that's told from his perspective.
There you go.
Seamus's backstory.
We'll see what happens. Anything's possible with Sturgill Simpson. But his voice is part Waylon, part Chris Christopherson, a little bit of Merle. Like, this guy's voice is made for this kind of storytelling and this kind of music. So really enjoy the tale. So while we continue to get to know the characters, let's find out a little bit about Sam.
He was a hound of hounds. He was the wonder of all walkers. He loved howling at the moon. He loved treeing that raccoon. Most of all, he was my best friend, and he's gone too soon.
Yeah, dude, that's a tough part of the album.
I'm actually, as we were listening to that, I'm staring. My dog is sitting over here, and he's a treeing walker coonhound, and I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah, the record kind of comes to a bit of a pause there to give a moment of silence for Sam, Dude's dog and best friend.
Yeah, pour one out for Sam.
I couldn't really tell how he died. So, like, did his paw get, like, infected or something? I couldn't really... It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, it sounded to me like he was cut up by thorns and stuff, so I think he got caught in some brambles running out, because they were searching for Seamus McClure, and... but yeah, so my impression was that Sam ran off and got caught in some stuff and ended up... But yeah, there was no, like, violent end that is described in the song, which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
He lets out that final bay, though. Ugh.
Yeah. I know.
I tell you, though, it would have made, like, a good, like, John Wick story if the whole second half of the record was, like, getting his revenge for...
There you go.
Seamus is killing his dog or something. My 3 words to describe this album are man, heart, mountain. As much as the songs on here are about the individual characters in the story, I really felt like this whole project felt like such a love letter to Appalachia and this time period. And, much like the Marty Robbins record, it feels very romanticized. Mm-hmm. But it feels like, we're celebrating the dude and that freedom of this lifestyle and sort of like, that connection to the land, I felt like was really the focus here. As much as, there's the drama around the people, but I think that Appalachia tie-in feels so strong here to me.
Yeah, also in the story, when he's kind of like running out of steam looking for Juanita and is just exhausted and has lost Sam, he's found by the Cherokee people and they set him back on the right track. I like how they brought in Native Americans into the story in a way, a positive way, which in the Marty Robbins era may not have been the case.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of like straddles the two lines between his dad was like a miner, right? And then his mother was Native American. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he fits in both worlds nicely, and it feels like we're kind of exploring a bit of both of those cultures through this record. And yeah, I found it really compelling. I love his voice, and there's some really great kind of bluegrass licks on here at times. And yeah, it's a short record. I mean, it's less than 30 minutes, but I feel like it covers a lot of ground in that time.
All right, so we've gotten to know Dude. We've gotten to know about Sam. Why don't we learn a little bit more about Shamrock?
Steed was Shamrock. Plain to see by his conformation that he came from the finest stock. Daddy was a black mammoth jack, Mama was a thoroughbred mare. Had 4 white feet on a buckskin coat, one mohawk in his hair. Stood about 19.
Yeah, you can hear it like the, I think they had some galloping, but you can definitely hear, feels like he's riding the horse or mule.
Yeah, so there's some confusion about whether he's in fact a mule or a horse.
Sounds like he's a mule based on the parentage. I didn't, he mentions it there, but
19 hands seems pretty tall for a mule, doesn't it?
Depends on the hands.
Those shack hands.
The shack hands, or are they mine, or are they?
So much like Dude, it sounds like Shamrock is also sort of a big badass.
Me or no?
Yes,
no,
both.
the other dude. No, I'm definitely not a badass.
No, not to be confused.
Not even close.
I like that one, actually. It goes on for maybe like an extra minute, sort of like a bluegrass jam.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. The 3 words I picked to describe the album are never played out. So there's a song on the album called Played Out. But yeah, this is great. I love that he's paying tribute to, to this kind of music and this kind of record. I was actually kind of surprised, like reading some of the reviews. A lot of people were lukewarm on this album. And I don't know if it's just that they're disappointed that he's not pushing the boundaries of rock and blues and country or something, but I don't know. I just think this is, such a cool record. And yeah, actually, I mean, for it being such a simple and sort of like silly story, I was actually quite moved. I was really sad, during the dog funeral, basically.
Yeah.
Especially when the dog dies.
I don't think there's any happy dog funeral.
And spoiler alert, when he finally tomahawks Seamus McClure, I'm just like, yeah.
Take that, Seamus.
I would have liked to have known the depths of Seamus's evil a little bit more,
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want classic storytelling from a modern perspective, calling back to the past, go check out The Ballad of Dude and Juanita by Sturgill Simpson. And then if you want to break your brain and get into his more metaphysical stuff, go check out the other albums as well.
What's new with you?
All right, so we've immersed ourselves in these country storytellers. But what else have you guys been digging lately?
I think we'll mention a couple new releases here that are starting to trickle out into 2024. Really enjoying this punk rock female-led group, of course, since like a last stuff I talked about in the show in the past year. This group called Sprints. They put out a record called Letter to Self. Really interesting, wide variety of different sounds on this record. Just starting to dig into it. Feels really promising though. I've also been digging into Andre 3000's new flute record. Trying to decipher if there's any value in this. It's called New Blue Sun. It came out at the end of 2023.
The whole record is flute?
It's flute and like there's some synthesizer and piano.
Okay.
Or no vocals or rapping or anything.
Wow. All right.
I don't know if it's worth your time, to be honest. I'm not sure we'd be talking about it if it wasn't from Andre 3000. But it's interesting, I guess, that he did something like that. And one more new release I'll throw out. This is also from last year. Something you might be interested in, dude. Metal group called Immortal.
Immortal.
I'm in. The name alone, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's badass. The album is called War Against All. The cover is like this big frozen skull mountain on it. It's pretty good. I've been really enjoying it. But yeah, how about you, Don? What you been digging on lately?
Well, I guess, because I did that Hank Williams cover record, and then we were focusing on country storytellers this week. I went back and I watched Ken Burns' Country Music, so the doc series that he did back in 2019. I think I started watching it years ago and I never finished it. So it is a big time commitment, but it's pretty amazing. I mean, country music is just so vast, and it's been going on for 100 years, and to try to put a narrative thread through all of it is quite an accomplishment. And I highly recommend country music to everybody. And it's gotten me checking out records from like the Carter Family and Jimmy Rogers and
nice.
Those kinds of people.
I've got the audio book edition I keep not listening to. That's a shortcut. I'll try that.
How long is this documentary?
I think it was 7 or 8 episodes, and each one is pushing 2 hours, between 90 minutes and 2 hours. Yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah, Ken Burns don't do things light.
Burns or nothing.
And you're still like, oh, he didn't talk about so-and-so.
Right.
All right. So for me, like one big thing that I decided to do after our cover albums episode was I have all the Metallica studio albums on vinyl, except I didn't have Garage Inc., so I did find a used copy of that and picked it up. I've been listening a little bit to this new artist, Brennan Edwards. He's a country artist. He has one EP and a short LP. The EP is called Till the End of My Days, and LP is called Yeshua. He's kind of a stripped-down Tyler Childers style artist, but there seems to be a lot of religious overtones, so I'm still kind of getting to know it, figure out how much a part of this artist that part is. But he's got a really nice voice, and some of his songwriting is shaping up to be kind of interesting. Both those were released in 2023. And then I finally got Alien Weaponry Tangaroa on vinyl. I've had it in my queue forever, and it finally became available. That was one of my top albums a few years back. They're the thrash groove metal band from New Zealand that if you haven't listened to our episodes about their 2 albums, go check them out. They rock, and you learn about the Maori tradition and some interesting stuff about New Zealand.
Okay, well, what you been digging? All right. Well, what have you been into lately? Let us know on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, also Discord, albumnerds.com/Discord.
It will be a discovery of extraordinary value.
Well, it's about that time in the show when I'm reminded of the great Italian astronomer Galileo.
Yeah, that happens.
You know how it goes, guys.
Sure.
Talking about country albums for 20 minutes.
Galileo.
There you go. Yeah, he was famous for saying, "We cannot teach people anything, but we can only help them discover it within themselves." And it's with that spirit I'd like to bring out my friend and yours, Wad Bot, to see what we'll be discovering next week on the show.
You nerds have spoken before of the impact MTV had on popular music. Next week, the power of the music video becomes clearer as you explore albums by artists that were winners of the MTV Video Music Awards.
Okay, so yeah, that should be interesting. MTV Video Music Award Video of the Year award winners. So these guys had to win the Video of the Year on the MTV Video Music Awards. Is that?
Damn.
That's what we're shooting for. Wow.
That's it. Yeah.
Like 39 of them.
Many of which we've probably talked about, so we'll see where this goes.
Hopefully the album's as good as the video, you know?
Yeah, hope so.
All right. Who's your favorite Video Music Award winner? What else are you listening to? Let us know. Join fellow album nerds on Discord at albumnerds.com/Discord. You can email us at podcast@albumnerds.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Album Nerds. And please subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast app. And if you'd like to support the show, you can do so via PayPal at albumnerds.com/support.
Thank you for joining us here on the Album Nerds podcast. We'll catch you next time. I want my MTV.
Yep. See everybody out on the range there.
Yeehaw.
Jeremy spoken class today.
Oh, it's country Pearl Jam.
Then you go into like the bluegrass fiddle. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a crash and burn.